So I'm lighting this candle here and opening up this session, which is a combination actually of a um, full moon ceremony as well as the upcoming winter solstice. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. I'm excited and nervous. So let me put this down over here. So let's just let ourselves get into a meditative state. I'm going to do a little invocation and also a little grounding and embodiment exercise so that we can fully arrive here in our body, in our heart, and allow ourselves to just, if it works for you, let your eyes go closed. If not, just to be fully present. And let's begin by taking a deep breath together and fully arriving, letting go of everything it took to get here. Oh my God, there's so many things. There's Christmas coming up, and there's children and grandchildren and all the things to take care of, and just allow ourselves to just let all that go because you're here and you arrived at this spot, this time, as the sun is at the farthest distance from the moon that it gets, and the sun is illuminating the moon. And so we light the candle in honor of the seasons and the changes and the cycles of nature. And we start by taking a few breaths and honor the spirit of air, the spirit of the east, the breath, and we invite the wind to be at our back as we move into these new cycles here. And the spirit of the east stands for new beginnings, new openings, new opportunities. And so we invite the spirits of the east, we invite the spirits of the south, the spirit of fire, the sun, of love and connection, transformation, of action. And may this work that we do here today light up the field that we're in from the very center and the core of our heart, that this time together is a time of actually bringing our own light in and honoring and thanking the spirit of the south for letting us recognize the sun that's actually in our heart, that's mirroring the sun that's in the sky. So we welcome the spirit of the south. We also welcome the spirit of the west, the spirit of water and the emotional fields and feelings and reflections, and the grandmother moon, the stirring of the inner waters as well as the outer waters and our emotions. And we welcome our emotions and we feel them in our body. And we welcome the spirit of the north, which represents our body, which represents Pachamama, the earth, balance and wisdom, and all our ancestors that live in the north. We welcome them. And we welcome Pachamama, Mother Earth. We've gathered here. Your children are gathering together to celebrate you. The stone people, the plant people, the four-legged, the two-legged, the furry, the finned, the creepers and the crawlers, and the winged ones, all our relations, all our spirit guards, all our helpers and our power animals. And we thank you, Spirit, for being here. You who have 1,000 names and are unnameable, we welcome you and thank you for bringing us together today. And just feel that in our breath, that welcoming, that we're here, that we belong here, that we're fully here, that we enter this as an embodied opportunity to deepen our sense of wholeness and to return to our original goodness, the blueprint that we were born with, our soul, that we are here today to open the opportunity to cleanse that which is a barrier to us seeing our own light and experiencing our own light in the world, and really deepening our sense of purpose at this particular time when so many great changes are happening in the world. So much is uh, at the edge of a cliff, and we're here and we're alive, and we have an opportunity to really empower ourselves, each other, and the field, and take the work we do today out into the world as a healing. So we feel that in our body, in our emotions, in our thoughts, and we bring this opportunity today into focus as we come back and open our eyes, bring ourselves back into this session together, and just take a moment to look at the people here, or the pictures of the people, to just be with each person and see if you can feel them in your heart. And these are not just pictures. We think, oh, Suzanne is in, and Jorg is in Germany, and people are all over the world here, and that they're kind of out there. And that's one way to look at it, but there's another way. When we're here together, we're really showing up in each other's nervous system so that we can feel each other. We live in a culture, a global culture, that has become numb to our connection with each other. And if there's anything out of this day today that you take home, I hope it's a feeling of, I can feel Doris, I can feel Elaine, I can feel Lynn and Patricia and Beverly and Rhea in my nervous system. I can feel Jane in me, and that I carry you, and I can, when I'm in tune with my body, when I'm in tune with my emotions and my thoughts, I can feel you and relate to you. And so, as my teacher Thomas often says, I can feel you feeling me, and we can see each other in that way and feel each other. So I really want to call that in for us, this uh, co-creation that we're doing here, this interdependent co-arising of the phenomena of being felt and seen, and being with each other in a field of people who are here for some reason that has to do with finding their own light and touching into the light of the world. So I just welcome you in that. And I want to talk a little bit about why I chose the full moon. Often I do the new moon and I do the solstices, and I was kind of in this debate: should I do the full moon, or should I do the winter solstice this year? And then it felt like I needed to do both of them together, because we're in this like really tight cycle. The the process of these two cycles of the full moon, which is called the cold moon. And we're in a time when people are being cold to each other. It's not only cold, I'm in a blizzard right now. Hopefully that we'll be able to continue to have internet, but right now we're here, and we're bringing this sense of warmth and light to each other. But it's called the cold moon, and it's a cycle that happens every 29 days, and this particular cycle has to do with our emotions. That the grandmother moon has a huge pull, not just on the oceans, but on us that are more than 60% water. It's affecting us. And so this is kind of the beginning of the process where the sun and the moon are, at the longest distance apart, with us and the earth in the middle. And then in 3 days, we're going to be entering on Tuesday morning into another cycle, the Yule cycle, the winter solstice cycle, which is an opportunity to celebrate our darkness, to go into the darkness, and to welcome the light, and to really look at that shadow side of ourselves that wants something that wants to be birthed out of the darkness, out of the shadow, just like we leave the womb and we're birthed into the, whoa, how did I get here? I'm in the light all of a sudden, and who are these creatures? And so I really want to invite you to bring a sense of curiosity and wonder and not knowing to this. I have no idea what's going to unfold here myself. Before I started, I went, okay, Spirit, we're going to do this thing and let's see what happens when we do it. So, and I find more and more the need to surrender and the need to allow uh, the higher power, the divine blueprint, to have its way with me rather than having to control and keep everything in line and make things happen, to really allow the happening to come from a deeper sense of knowing. And I've been really fascinated with a thing that Raina Marie Rilke calls in-seeing. By the way, can you hear me all right? It sounds really funny because my sound is out and I'm listening through earbuds. It's okay? Okay. So those of you who have been around me know I'm a big fan of Rilke as well as many other poets, but particularly Rilke, and particularly when we're talking about darkness and light. And Rilke has had a term that I just love the term. It's called in-seeing. So I want to invite you to practice in-seeing, and we're going to do a fairly deep process later on in this call, where I'm going to really invite you to take an issue or a question and contemplate on it with this what I'm calling in-seeing. I took the term from Rilke. And in seeing, it's a kind of perception that takes place in the body. It's not in the head, and it requires us to um, uh, uh, the observer. So we're the observer of whatever it is, but it's a kind of merging to become both the seer and the seen. Some of you who are into quantum physics uh, know that it's been discovered and proven in many ways that what we're observing is always impacted by the observer. So we're looking to melt that together, to merge those two together, where we do in-seeing. So we observe with empathy. We don't see with the mind, we see with, well, we do partially, but more with the body, with the skin. Imagine that your whole body is ears and eyes, and that we're taking this in. And so in seeing is beyond contemplation. It is a contemplation, but it's beyond the thinking. We think of contemplations as I'm going to think really hard on something, but this is about really surrendering beyond mind and dropping a question into the water and watching the ripples go out through our body. So we're going to be practicing the art of in-seeing in this practice. And let's see, I wanted to tell you a story. I like telling stories, and they're usually horrible stories about myself because I'm the one who can watch how idiotic I can be and the things I can do. And there are always great opportunities to do the work that I do in reparenting and in seeing and looking. And so yesterday, um, I woke up, I did my Tai Chi and my Qigong and my meditation, but I was just off, those days you wake up and it's like I was just off, you know. I didn't do my cereal right and almost burned it, and I was, just one thing after another. And um, and I had to go and take the license plates off my car, which is in storage because of the snow, buried under 2.5, 3 feet of snow, and take it in and go to the insurance place so that I'm not paying insurance on my car while it's stored away. Um, and so this I thought would take, an hour to go in, get the license plates and go in. Well, everything that could go wrong went wrong. I won't go into all the details, but I finally got there, and I was still like I forgot things. I had trouble getting out of the house. I got to the car. It was just buried and frozen on top of it. So I had to dig around the car to get to the license plates. And then I realized that I had a Phillips head screwdriver, and it has one of those Canadians. What do they call those heads that are hex heads, whatever it is, which I, haven't gotten used to yet. I couldn't get the screwdriver off, or the plates off the thing. I'm up to my ears in snow. Finally, somebody came along and I asked if he had a tool, and I got the thing off. And anyway, I went uh, to the town then, and and it was an hour wait at the insurance. So I sat there waiting, and it just was off the whole time. And then when I finally got up there, they said, "Well, the insurance is lapsed because you can't do that now. You have to do some other thing that's going to take a bunch of paperwork and on and on and on." So it turned out it took the entire day to do this little job that I was going to do. And I was just so ungrounded and so emotional, and had this feeling like of being lost and disoriented and upset. So I came home and I said, okay, time to do a little reparenting on yourself, right? And get grounded. And I came back, and I just, this is the work we're going to do actually. I just took the question out there, and I said, I'm going to do in-seeing. I'm going to contemplate on this question, and I'm going to see what's underneath this, because, it's not, I'm particularly off today. And so I did, and I was meditating, and for a long time. And then I had this image come up of my grandmother when I was 2.5, yelling at me. It was right after Christmas, and I had gotten a train, this one of those Lionel trains. I don't know if they still make those or not, but I got a train, and it had a transformer, and I wasn't supposed to touch it. And I don't remember anything, but evidently it was left on. And my grandmother is yelling at me, screaming. She was very fearful, my mother. I mean, my grandmother. My mother was too, which is where I'm getting in the story here. And she screams, and she says, "You're gonna burn the house down and kill us all." And so, I was very scared, very overwhelmed. And then I went out, and I guess I was taken to the park or something. My mother was, I was living with my grandparents with my mother, who both my parents were at Pearl Harbor. And my mother was greatly affected by Pearl Harbor, the bombing. My father was a fighter pilot. And so I went out and came back, and my mother had committed suicide. And of course, I saw that that was my fault, and I didn't know what to do, and I was lost, and I had this kind of all this feelings come up. And I realized that it was at this time, and I looked it up in the almanac. In 1947, the full moon was on the second day, the 27th, 2 days after Christmas. Talk about cycles. So all of that was coming up as the full moon was coming. And I got to see, like, wow, and see oh my God, I made a decision that everything that's bad that happens is my fault. And if I'm not really careful, people are going to die. So that's a very personal story, but I wanted to share it with you because when we have difficulties, when we have challenges, we say we had a hard day or a difficulty, oftentimes when you go underneath that, you'll be able to find these deep traumas where your nervous system shut down in its intelligence. So, um, you know, what happens is if we can stay with the feelings that we're having and actually spend time being with them, we can begin to get underneath them. This is particularly true if you have like the same argument with your partner over and over again, or the same situation in your work over and over again. So it's interesting to look for repetitive things in your life, you know, or repetitive situations, challenges with money, challenges with relationships. So I want you to begin to think about, you know, what's an area that's happening in my life now that seems to happen quite often. That's a challenge. That's a difficulty. That's hard for me. Um, so I'm just going to look here because there's 2 pages and I wanted to see where everybody is here. Okay.
Michael,
Yes.
this is what you're doing, but we have a comment from Ayana who was asking to hear more about reparenting. So I just wanted to make sure that that was addressed,
Yeah, thank
which is
you,
what you're
Ayana.
doing.
Um, yeah, I will do more about reparenting. I mean, it's what I do, and it's the kind of method I've in my psychotherapy trauma work. It's the method I've been kind of evolving for some time, and that I work with people. And basically, what I do, I work with people, the adult part of a person, to when they discover a trauma area, to go back and meet that that child that in the intelligence of the nervous system was overwhelmed and suppressed. Like I suppressed the feeling that I'm responsible for all the bad things that happen in the world, but I'm always like, oh shit, that must be my fault. Excuse my language. You know, that must be because I did something wrong, you know. And so even with years of meditation and work, you know, I hadn't ever put those things together like that. And you know, the combination of the cycles of the moon and the coming of the solstice to me were, oh yeah, here is life wanting to heal. Life wants to heal through us. That's the thing, you know, when you have a cut, you know, it automatically heals. You don't have to do anything about healing. But if you start picking at it, oh, that's not a nice cut. I don't want that cut. I'm going to fix that cut. I'm going to, ooh, I better, ooh, it's got this scab on the cut, you know, and you keep picking on it, you're going to lose your finger. It's the same way with you thinking you're broken. There is nothing broken about you. The fundamental assumption of all my work is that you were born into essential goodness with a full ability to heal, and that there are barriers to that, which we call traumas, which we call dissociation, which we call soul loss. We have a lot of different names for it. So, um, I, you know, reparenting is a lot more than that. I'm just gonna say that because I really want to, because it's we're working with Grandmother Moon, because we're working we're starting something here that I hope you will integrate over the next 3 days as we go into the return of the light, into the Yule, into the uh, winter solstice. So I want to focus a little bit on emotions. And those of you who have done the way of the mystic, you know, I go very deeply into emotions. So the first thing to recognize is there's no such thing as a bad emotion. You know, I want to get rid of that fear. No, I want to get rid of that anger. No, you don't want to get rid of it. You want to honor it because it's trying to tell you something. Because emotions are the fabric of our relationship, both to ourselves and to others. And I distinguish emotions from feelings because emotions play out in the theater of the body. They're physical sensations in the body. Many of us are so numb, we have no sense of emotions in the body. And that's part of the work that we need to do. It's not a problem, it's an intelligence that's been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years through our ancestors and these ways of being. Much of the trauma that we're dealing with isn't even our own trauma, it's ancestral. You know, it was our mother had it, our father, our grandfather, grandmother, whatever. It's been handed down to us. But there's nothing broken. It's an intelligence in itself. And that's the thing that's so important about this work is it's an intelligence that we want to honor. So we bring emotional awareness to this work because emotions play out in the theater of the body, feelings play out in the theater of the mind. So another way to say that is emotions are event driven, while feelings are more learned behavior that are usually kind of in hibernation, and then they get triggered by an external event. So for example, um, happiness. Happiness is a feeling of the mind. I'm happy. Oh, I want to be happy. Oh, I was happy then, but I'm not happy now. How can I get happy? It's completely of the mind, whereas joy is an emotion. You can feel it. It's like, whoo, you know, I can feel it. It's an upwelling. It's an experience in my body. I feel joyful, you know. It's very different than the feeling, and it's in the body. Now, the thing is that the feelings and emotions, whether they're in the head and I'm angry in my mind and I'm thereby doing that, they still release the same cortisol, the same secretions, all the things that are secreted by the expression of an emotion in your body. But in order to actually heal them, we need to be in the body. We need to get embodied. Because it all comes back to the body. So whether it's a feeling or emotion, it's a portal to a deeper understanding of our story, of our narrative, the story that we live in that is invisible, but it's right here. And it shapes the way we see the world. So our narrative is who we consider ourselves to be. But we don't often look at that and don't often see that that's what's shaping my reality. My story is how my reality looks. Another thing about feelings and emotions. Emotions, there's no negative, there's no such thing as an emotional, as a bad emotion. They're all simply elemental forces of our life energy that are essential for our health and for our journey towards wholeness to return to our original blueprint. So, for instance, if I look at 5 kind of basic, when I look at fear, oh, I don't want to be afraid. No, you do want to be afraid when you're afraid. You don't want to try to be something else because fear is there to protect you. If you look at anger, anger defends you. It teaches you how to set boundaries. If you're looking at sadness, it releases, it allows you to release the grief and the heaviness. And so we want to feel it and allow it to move through us. The problem is these emotions get stuck in our body. Like I said, joy uplifts us, and compassion unites all of it. It unites us. It's the wholeness. In fact, that's what emotions do. Emotions are the fabric of our relatedness to each other, and they talk through the body. Emotions speak through the body. They don't speak through the mind. If you're talking about your emotions, then you're not feeling your emotions. So we want to find congruence between what's coming out of my mouth and what's actually happening. My teacher Gabrielle used to say, we're all schizophrenic, not schizophrenic, but trisophrenic. which means that what I think is one place, how I feel is another, and what my body is doing is another. So we're out of congruence. We're out of alignment, and so this work is about becoming more in alignment. And this suppression of our emotions, this dissociation, is very, very important. It's a crucial function. So it wants to be loved and seen and heard because um, it comes from that place where something was too overwhelming, so we suppressed it. Um, uh, so let me give you an example of that. So Jung had a term called Carl Jung had a term called the shadow self. A lot of people have been, learning about how do I heal my shadow self? What is the shadow self? And uh, if I'm looking at my shadow self, what's a good example? Okay, so your parent or your caregiver, primary caregiver, scolds you, right, for being too outspoken. You need to not be a tall poppy. That's what they say in Europe. Don't be a tall poppy, or at least in Scandinavia. Don't be a tall poppy. And so you like back away from that because you say, oh, I won't feel safe because I don't want, if I'm outspoken, then the person I need to love me, to nourish me, to feed me, to soothe me, won't love me, and I'll die if I get outspoken. So we suppress that message. It becomes um, internalized in our subconscious, and therefore you get triggered, but you don't know why. One of the ways you get triggered, let's say somebody else is very outspoken, speaking their truth, and you get upset. Well, they're just speaking their truth, but why are you upset? It's because it brings up those unexplainable feelings of that dissociated, suppressed part that you push down at some point in your life. And so the anger or the resentment that you had about having to suppress yourself is now coming up. So I say, oh, I'm angry. And I don't really even, most of the time, what we're angry about, what we're upset about, is not even what we're upset or angry about. It's a trigger from the past that's getting revealed. And that if something is repetitive and happens over and over again, oh yeah, that's something from the past. Now, what is it from the past? And so that's what I want to discover. So anytime that we're having a difficulty, quote, or a challenge, or we say, oh, I had such a hard time at work today. I'm so stressed. I'm so overwhelmed. Um, it's almost always a symptom of an earlier similar experience, usually a traumatic experience. And I use big T and little t. There's big T is like car accident, being raped or molested, being beaten up. Those are big T's. But there's little T's, just like the example I gave you. You need to chill. You need to be quiet. You're too much. Those kinds of things. They're just as impactful as the big ones, actually, which is kind of crazy, but they are. Because one thing that's important here, because when almost lost my thought there a second. Oh, I know. So because when you have a trauma and you're getting upset, it's not you're upset about the trauma that happened back then. You're actually reliving that trauma now. When I work with a Vietnam vet, he's in Nam. He's in firefight. He's in attack. He's experiencing that now. So it's not the thing that happened, but it's the memory and the thing that happened in you that is the issue, which is a good thing, because if it was the trauma, well, we can't, actually we can change the past, but that's a whole nother story I can talk about another time. But um, retrocausality is an amazing thing. Uh, but what gives you the freedom from that trauma is being able to touch into it and feel the feelings you felt at the time, and give yourself or be with somebody that can co-regulate with you while you're having the feelings, so that you can experience it in a way that you can recognize and give yourself the nurturing, the soothing, the love, the attention you needed. So you asked about reparenting. Reparenting is what I do with people, is to support them in their adult self, going back and giving their child self the support that they needed that they didn't get at that time. So we can reparent and give ourselves that. And I've done it with many, many people. Some of you on the call I've done it with. So, um, it is something that can done. So trauma is not like a sentence. It's not like you're forever wounded by this. I mean, I have lots of early trauma, uh, but I'm functioning in the world, and then all of a sudden something comes up that I hadn't gotten to. um, and I don't know that it's ever going to end. But what we learn when we do this is that we create more capacity. So when you look at the issue of stress, which is a word that doesn't say anything, but how many people here have been feeling some stress lately? Yeah, a couple people at least. Okay, there's a lot of stress out in the world right now, in the field. But if you're feeling stress, you're actually not attending to what's really happening. Because stress is like saying, I'm sick. Well, what does that mean, I'm sick? Do I have a cold or stage 4 cancer or leprosy? I don't know if people still get leprosy, but whatever. It doesn't say anything. So we have to get deeper into it. Well, if I am feeling tension in my body or stress in my body, I can go to that and recognize, oh, my current capacity, listen to what I'm saying, my current capacity is insufficient to deal with what's in front of me at this time. So it becomes an issue of capacity. So when we're doing this work, we want to increase our capacity. What does that mean? That literally means inner space. That's why we meditate. That's why we do contemplation. That's why we do prayer, is to create more inner capacity to deal with what's arising in the moment right now. Instead of pushing it down by saying, oh, I'm so stressed. Well, wait a minute. Actually, what are you feeling in your body? What's happening in your body? What emotions are occurring? What thoughts are occurring? So when we go deeper and we can find those places that we're stressed, and we touch up against them and allow ourselves to feel them, to see them, to witness them. So we presence. Those of you who've done some of the courses know I talk about presencing, witnessing, and embracing as the 3 key areas that we work in. So we presence, we bring our full attention, and we zero in, we zoom in on the situation. And it's like looking through a microscope or a telescope. We zoom in and we go into the interior and we begin to explore. Oh, Yeah, do I feel spacious? Do I feel cramped and tight and stressed? What do I feel right now in my body? What emotions are present? So I'm presencing. And then there's this thing that happens, and those of you who are the meditators will know this place. There's a place when you sit and you're paying attention to your breath, you're paying attention to your sensations, and then you go, well, wait a minute, who's paying attention? If I'm watching, is there two of me? No, that's an important shift when awareness and your story and your identity become separate, and awareness is actually paying attention to what's happening in you. That's a huge part. I call that the witnessing stage. In the witnessing stage, and again, these are things that have, I'm giving you the shorthand because we have an hour and a half to do some work together. So the that brings us into the interior to where we can feel these things, and then we begin to see the patterns that are there, the cycles that have been embedded in our being, in how we've been being in the world. And when we do that and we begin to discover, oh yeah, that time when my parents were getting a divorce and I was 5 years old and I was so upset and I wanted to fix things, but I couldn't fix things, but I was trying to fix things. And so I was trying to be really good because I felt like it was my fault. So I see this whole scenario that happened back then. And then I go back to that 5 year old or 3 year old or 7 year old, whatever. And I say, sweetheart, there was nothing you could do and you were really scared, weren't you? And as an adult, you can say, I get scared too, you know. I get really scared sometimes too, but it's okay. You made it, and it wasn't your fault that your parents got a divorce. And you don't have to always feel guilty about everything you do and anytime you want to ask for something or whatever how that played out in your life. And so you can heal it by bringing love and nurturance to that little younger person and really create a relationship. Your adult can create a relationship with that child part. So I've said a lot of things. Maybe we better open it up for questions before we get into doing a journey. So this is my work is always interactive. So I really invite you to jump in and say, yeah, what about this? Or ask questions, or let's get some clarity up to now, because I've said a whole lot of things that may not be easy to digest, or maybe they are. I don't know. Yeah, Marius, please.
Just something that's, I thought I'll ask this question. So what you brought up was when an event triggers us, then we react and those feelings come up and we have those kind of direct experience. And then you mentioned overwhelm as well. What's really going on behind the scenes when you seem to be facing overwhelm on everything? So like yesterday I was fine doing the dishes. Today it's just too much. So you addressed that a little bit, but I feel there's a bit of a chronic overwhelm happening for myself personally and a lot of other people. And I would like you to just please talk a little bit towards that.
Yeah, well, we live in times there's a lot of overwhelm, certainly. And it's a really good question. If you're feeling overwhelmed, then you're not present, first of all. So you're either in the remembered past or the imagined future. And the only way we can heal is from the present. So when you're in overwhelm, it's a ding dong, ding dong, ding dong. Come back, be present, be in my body, be in my emotions, be in my feelings. Now, what's going on here inside? Finding the tension in my body, the stress places in my body. Looking back and seeing, boy, this is an old feeling of being overwhelmed. I'm having this feeling now, but I had it when I was 40, 30, 20, 10, 5. And then we find, okay, where did we first get that imprint of overwhelm, which is what it is. It's an imprint. It could even come an imprint from ancestors, but we want to deal with it in this world now. And so we're feeling into that. So that's the hardest part. We constantly want to be somewhere other than where we are, but the only place that healing takes place is being precisely and exactly where you are. And so we keep saying, I don't need, I'm not going to be interviewed. I'm not going to be overwhelmed. I don't need to be overwhelmed. It's, it's all of these stories like that, but we don't actually stop and say, wow, what do I mean when I'm saying overwhelmed? Oh, my heart rate is fast. Okay, I just attend to my heart rate. Okay. Wow, I'm feeling like I'm going crazy. Okay, slow down. Check in my breath. What's happening now? No, I'm not going crazy. I'm just upset. What am I upset about? Oh, I'm upset that the world is going to hell in a handbasket, and I feel responsible and I need to do something, but I'm not doing anything. Whatever, you go into the narrative there, and then you get back to the original place of overwhelm. Like, how far back do you feel overwhelmed? Where, Marius, do you remember the first time that you felt really overwhelmed?
I'd say from my early childhood,
Yeah.
where just no control, no idea what's happening around me, not really understanding,
Yeah.
and just that unknown uncertainty in environments of heightened stress.
So you're going to have to get a lot more specific, because that's just part of the narrative still.
Yes.
So you have to get back to, what happened, a memory of something that happened. Somebody was sick, somebody was hurt, it was just too much. I couldn't handle it. And I made decisions, that when these things happened, I get overwhelmed, which you can see as a dissociation because it protects you.
Yes.
Being overwhelmed, you have to not deal with something that's too overwhelming for you at the time. But now you're an adult, you can work with it. And most of us aren't actually adults anywhere. We're all adolescents. Really, I mean, climate change and all this is a rite of passage right now. We need to go from being adolescents, and, I'm an adolescent at 76. So, it's just the way it is. We need to move through the initiation of what's happening around us, take a stand and become an adult in the face of all the tyranny and craziness that's going on in the world, and be a stand. It doesn't mean you have to, put on a helmet and get a gun. It means, to stand in your adult self. And so this kind of dissociation allows us to not be responsible for the world that we're creating with our thoughts and with our stories and with our ideas. I hope that's helpful. We work together, so we can go deeper with that.
Thank you so much, Mark.
You're in both the advanced course and other work. So yeah. So thanks. That's a great question. I hope that helped. Yeah. Other questions, comments? Yes, Daisha.
We have a question from Ayana.
Okay, Ayana, what's your question?
Yeah, what if you're feeling comfort from being in that overwhelmed state? It's
Well,
giving
that's
you it's
that's
giving
exactly
you
what it
something.
is. It soothes you rather than actually deal with the underlying issue. The problem is you'll stay stuck in the repetitive behavior and won't ever heal from that, because that's dissociation is a way of soothing our nervous system, so we don't have to feel. But the only way through is through. You got to feel the things that you experience that you keep having happen over again. I mean, you're on this call because I'm assuming that all of you are have some spiritual calling, some kind of wanting to wake up, that you wouldn't be on a call with me if you didn't have that. So like, to notice what you're noticing is important, Ayana. It's like, oh yeah, I'm soothing myself rather than actually dealing with the issues that are keeping me in habitual behavior that's dysfunctional and not serving my health, my happiness, my relationships, and my soul. That's all, which is a big cost. Yeah. Thanks for your question, Ayana. Appreciate it.
So staying in the adult and letting the adult soothe the child, is one way,
Well,
would you say?
yeah, it's a little more complex than that. When you're in that place and you can't self-regulate, so a lot of us are trying to learn how to self-regulate our emotions, our situations like that. You can't do it alone. You didn't get with this by being alone. You got to it because you were left alone and you didn't have anyone to co-regulate with you in the early years, where you had to be in the adaptive years, when you had to be soothed and loved and fed and nurtured and cared for. And so before you can self-regulate, you need to co-regulate. You need to get with people who are able to hold you. That's why I do groups, and why they're so important to me, is that in groups, we hold the field together, all of us. We're interdependently co-creating a field of healing so that we can co-create and then find our strength to self-regulate. So I hope that makes some sense to you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. Okay, yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Ayana, would you mute, please? There we go. There we go. I got you muted. Anyone
Yes,
else?
Michael, we have a comment, a question in the comments. Is overwhelm a boundary issue?
Is overwhelm a boundary issue? It certainly can be a boundary issue, but I don't think it's necessarily a boundary issue. It can, again, overwhelm is a dissociative state. So it could be that you were in a family that everybody was always overwhelmed, and it was a learned behavior, that it didn't have anything to do with boundaries, that you just took it on. That could be an ancestral thing that came on. It could be a capacity issue in being actually very protected and having lots of boundaries, and that all of a sudden the world is like closing in on you. So yeah, a good question, but I wouldn't call it necessarily that, but yeah, often it is a boundary issue. Yeah. Anything else before we jump into you want to do a little guided meditation here? Not sure where I'm going to go with it, but yeah. Anybody else? Okay. So I want to go back to the in-seeing. See, was there anything else about shadow work? Just let me look and see if I got anything here that I. No.
We did get one more question
Okay.
in the comments. It is, how would you define respect versus boundaries? How does healthy appear?
Great. And what's the person's name?
Oh, thank you. That question is from Denisa.
Hi, Denisa. So respect.
We can't hear you, Michael.
Hello?
Michael, can you hear us? Must have lost internet. Let's see.
It seems he lost his connection.
He's having a
I'm
hurry.
gonna give him, yeah, he's in a blizzard, a snow blizzard right now, so he may have lost connection.
Not a
I'll give
hurricane,
him
a blizzard.
blizzard, yes. I'll see if I can get him on the phone.
We can meditate.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ah, I think the snowstorm is having an impact here on my internet. It just crashed, but I'm back. Everybody back still? Hope we didn't lose anybody here. Okay. Yeah, you could meditate. That would be a really adult thing to do. But let me finish my thought here. I talked about respect, and I think you heard that. Did you hear about the second part, responsibility?
Yeah.
Okay, so respect is the entry to boundaries. To look again newly. To look again newly means, are my boundaries really threatened? Am I the one that's inviting this boundary thing? What do I need to do to say, stop, no, here's the line? That's where anger, I said, is about setting boundaries, to understand, to feel that strong feminine, fierceness of no that can come through us. But that's only the beginning. You really need to go to responsibility, the ability to respond. So that's what we're in order to set boundaries, we cultivate the ability to respond. And that takes us right back to the dissociated parts, the shadow parts, all of that area. If we have an issue with boundaries, it has to do with something in the past that was suppressed, that we feel we have to give ourselves away in some way, or we have to be nice, or we have to follow authorities, or we have to, succumb to this. And this is what leads to abusive relationships and, all kinds of craziness. Somebody who has weak boundaries is ripe for predators. In fact, they're clearing for predators. So, I won't go long into that because I'm just looking at what time it is here. Yeah, we might run a little over if people want, but I'd like to get into a meditation. So let's do that. And okay, Spirit. Yeah, let's just get into a meditative state. And I want to go back to what I said in the first place. And that is to come up with a difficulty, a challenge, something that you're up against right now, some issue. And I want you to bring that question of how to deal with that issue, whatever it is. So it could be a work issue, a relationship issue, a challenge in your life, but something that's happening currently that is causing you to be struggling, feel overwhelmed, having a hard time. It's likely going to be one that's repetitive, that's been happening before. Maybe it is setting boundaries, for instance. So I want you to make a very simple question, and that is, I'm going to ask Spirit for information that will allow me to heal this challenge, this difficulty, this hardship that I'm having. I'm going to ask Spirit to physically, emotionally, mentally give me some insight. And I'm going to start this meditation, and I'm going to ask you to keep it alive, keep the question alive through the next 3 days into the solstice, so that we actually have the opportunity to do the inner work that's necessary by sitting with this question. The answer to any question is in the question. So to do this, you're going to have to bring curiosity, wonder, not knowing, not having to figure it out, not thinking, but allowing the answer to the question to be emergent, to come from a deeper sense of presence and being here. In other words, to get out of the way. So I hope you all have a question. Don't make it too complicated, just a simple, why do I keep having the same fight with my wife or my husband? Why am I always, don't have enough money? Why, just those kinds of questions. Okay. So everybody hold that question now. We're going to just begin with being in our body. And just feeling our weight. And just relaxing. Noticing the breath. Feeling the inhale and the exhale. And slowing the breath down a little. Extending the out breath, dropping more deeply into the body. And noticing what's happening in the body. Just do a little scan, noticing any tension in the body, any holding or any stuckness. Any numbness. Numbness is not nothing, it's someplace you're being protected. And just go through the body, scan the whole body, bringing awareness. Notice yourself noticing your body. And look at the interior of the body and get a sense, does it feel tight and cramped, or does it feel loose and spacious and open? Just take whatever you get. There's not a right way. Just becoming aware of our interiority, allowing things to settle. And then noticing any emotions that are present. Perhaps it's like a scent of an emotion, fear, anger, sadness, grief, shame, guilt, anger. Maybe there's a couple different ones coming up. Maybe you don't feel any emotions at all in the body. It's okay too. It's all information. Notice the quality of mind. Is it busy? Or is it calm? Becoming still. Imagine that it's like a still pond or lake. Bring yourself to the edge of just imagining and looking at this still pond or lake. And I want you to take your question, imagine that it's a stone, and you throw it out into the lake or the pond. And there are ripples coming out, vibrations coming out. And with our in-seeing, see if you can feel those ripples in your body, the ripples of the question in the lake that you just put. And the ripples continue outward. And see if you can get a felt sense of that vibration, of that ripple in your body. And feel a sense of being aligned in your body from the crown of your head to the base of your spine. And feel a sense of vertical awareness going all the way down into the earth, being fed by the nutriments, the minerals, and the wisdom of the earth, coming up through your spine, through your feet and roots. And coming to the heart. And imagine that there's a flame in your heart. And as you bring the energy up from the earth, the flame flickers, grows brighter. And then imagine that there's a light coming from above, from the cosmos. And it's coming right down through the crown of your head, into your heart. And again, the heart flame is flickering. And then see if you can feel both of those at the same time. The silver light coming from above through the crown down into the heart. The golden light coming from the earth up through your body and your spine into your heart. And the light is growing brighter and brighter, fanned with your breath. And notice that light is illuminating your entire body. And you can see and feel the ripples of your question in the light. And take that question right to the center of your heart and put it in the fire. And feel the ripples merging with the ripples from the water. The element of the emotions, the element of the fire, passion, love. And allow yourself to merge with the fire. And let the fire speak to you. What is it that's at the heart of this question? What is it that wants to be seen, heard, felt, experienced, remembered. And just sit in the light. Again, coming from the wisdom of the heavens, the grounding and nurturing of the earth. The fire burning away anything that's false or in the way, until you find the genesis of the source or source of this question. And we've planted this seed in the center of your heart. And for the next 3 days, into the winter solstice, we're going to let the divine intelligence unpack this question. Don't try to answer it. Don't work at it. Don't try to figure it out. Just honor the divine intelligence of the body that wants to heal, the life that wants to live through you and heal these challenges, doubts, difficulties. So we thank our guides and the spirits for holding this question. Just to be open to it, to take time, to journal, to dream, to be open and to know that the higher power in you wants to heal whatever it is that's behind this question. And take a few deep breaths and continue to feel the light, the silver light from above, the golden light from below, harmonizing in the center of your heart, holding the question, knowing that divine intelligence is working, and this will be handled, and create more space, more spaciousness, greater wisdom, more sense of purpose, more feeling of joy and empowerment in your life. And so it is, we take a few more deep breaths. Just gently, as we're ready, feel our fingers and toes. And then bring yourselves back as you're ready. Welcome back. So again, I'm leaving this open so that you do the work in the next 3 days. Well, you aren't doing the work. You're allowing Spirit to do the work, but trusting that. So we've got a little time if anyone wants to ask a question or share their experience of the journey. Just raise your hand. You can do that by going to more or reactions, I guess. To go to reactions, you just click on the hand. Oops, yeah, where it says raise hand, like that. Oh, there, I have my hand up. Now I'm look. And if you can't figure that out, just wave your hand and I'll be there. Aw, thank you, Ria. That's sweet. Very nice. Anyone want to share their experience?
We have a question from Patricia. Her hand is raised.
Oh, good. Hi, Patricia. Can you unmute yourself? Lower left-hand corner if you're on a computer. Can I unmute you? Let me see. I can ask you to unmute, but you've got to do it yourself. There you go. Good.
Thank you. I'm feeling very nervous, Michael. Thank you. And this is quite amazing for me to even raise my hand. But I feel so strongly. I've been so strongly from the meditation or the journey that we've just been through, and just trying to just be with that journey, be with the question that came up for me, and then 3 days, and just letting go, just trusting and letting things unfold. And I'm feeling very, nervous, as I said, sort of just not knowing.
Yay! That's a good thing. You want to live into the question. Oh, I'm so glad you said this, Patricia. I'm so glad you said this, because if you there's a quote by Rilke. It's a letter to a young artist. You can look it up online, and he says, don't answer the question, live into the question. This is what we're doing here, to live into the question and allow the question to inform you, and don't close it off with trying to get the right answer.
Right.
Don't go here. Stay in the body and let the answer move through you. Okay. And he says, and then someday perhaps you might live into the answer, but the importance is to live into the question.
Okay. Oh, I'm just digesting.
Yeah.
It's
such a great, I'm so glad you asked this question. It's such an important question.
Well, it's probably going to have a big effect on me, in as much as how my life is, where I am in my life at the moment, and that, if you like, the overwhelm. Although what I'm wanting to do, what I've been doing is just letting everything unfold. So perhaps letting go of trying to find the answer, but just dealing with the question, as you're saying. That's what I'm understanding. And so, in as much as there's a fear there, the fear of the unknown, if you like, so that in moments I have insightful moments and full of energy, and then I have and it's great, and I'm dealing with all the different aspects that life imposes on us at the present. I say us because I think we're in such a catastrophic place in the world, wherever we are, and it's unconscious or conscious. It's having I'm affected. We're all affected, if you like. So
we are.
I'm understanding, and I'm saying that now because that's what I'm seeing as well. It's just not my own fear and my own sense of, or moving back into the little child. One of the things that's coming up for me very obviously is this sense of not belonging, not being good enough, not feeling part of, if you like. And that's been something that's been with me all my life, and which I'm still working with, and it gets better, by the way.
Patricia, I really invite you to come do some of the courses, with us. There's a surfing trauma course coming up, and I I do a lot of courses and individual work. So, you know, it sounds like you're ready to do some co-creation work with other people, because
Beautiful.
I really think it's so important that we, particularly because of the things you're talking about at this time, that
Yeah.
we have groups of people that are doing this awakening kind of work, this deep spiritual work, to meet the
Yes.
challenges of our time. We were born into this time, and
Yeah.
this is a rite of passage that we're
Mhm.
going through, to go from, I do believe, from an adolescent culture into a um, into an adult world, an interconnected, interdependent world, which is, if we're going to survive, we have to move in that direction. And so that's why I do the work I do. But thank you, Patricia, so much. It was really, really a great question. Honor to be with you.
And thank you so much, Michael. And I'm meant to be here today, and I will follow through what
Great.
you've suggested to me. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
and write me and tell me how it goes. I'd love to hear, you know,
Well,
on this.
I will just follow, you know, the work that you're doing,
Mhm.
which is great, and maybe make connection in
Wonderful.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. I look forward to that.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you, Patricia. Oh, we've got a minute here if anybody has a question. Otherwise, I just want to thank you for bringing the light, and your presence here. I mean, this is not for everybody to be doing this work, but we need to be part of the circle of people who are doing the inner work, and allowing ourselves to actually challenge our narrative, our habitual way of being in the world, because we're literally on the precipice of either collapse or having an evolutionary jump in what it means to be a human. This is not a small thing. You know, this work is really important to be doing wherever you're doing it, and also to do it in groups. You know, don't be a superhero. Um, you know, we need each other. We really need each other, and we need to be open to many different ways of seeing the world. There's way too much divisiveness and anger, and you know, it's being fueled by the media and by um, other sources. And so it's really a time to stand in our own power and discover. I'm doing a radio show next week with a climate scientist that, if you don't listen to We Earth Radio, it's a great show. I've been doing it for, I don't know, 17 years or something. And Karen O'Brien is a friend and a climate scientist extraordinaire, and she's talking about, this is a very top level climate scientist from Norway, and she says, you know, it's not the political solutions that we have to be facing and the work that we have to do, and it's not the technological. We have all the technology to handle climate change and all of these issues. It's a relationship issue, and we really need to first expand our relationship with ourselves, and then to expand our relationships with each other. Uh, and you can't do that alone. You have to step in there and, yeah, take the reins. Anyway, I'm so grateful for your time and taking this Saturday morning or afternoon or evening to be with us, and I hope you'll stay in touch and keep us posted. And do write me and tell me about your experience in the next 3 days. Let it cook, though. Really let it cook, because we only started a process, intentionally left it open. Which usually I'll close one, but this is very much that way. So much love to you all, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.